Hello, this is Holland Timmons, also known on this channel as The Connoisseur, and today I'll be looking at The Complete Sherlock Holmes, Volume 2 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. As you can see, it's not important. This is a 700-page book. I've read every story, I've read every book. This has been a long time coming on this channel. My first review was of Jeremy Brett in the Complete Granada television series. Feel free to check that out on my channel. I really should review more Sherlock Holmes. But, yeah, this is a collection of the second half of the Sherlock Holmes stories. Almost all of them are short stories, except for The Valley of Fear, which is the fourth and final Sherlock Holmes book. And, yeah. So, begins with the return of Sherlock Holmes. The Adventure of the Empty House, The Adventure of the Norwood Builder, The Adventure of the Dancing Men, The Adventure of the Solitary Cyclist, The Adventure of the Priory School, The Adventure of Black Peter, The Adventure of Charles Augustus Milverton. That guy was an asshole. I'm glad he got what was coming to him. The Adventure of the Six Napoleons, The Adventure of the Three Students, The Adventure of the Golden Pince-Nez, The Adventure of the Missing Three-Quarter. Gee, I wonder what the next one will be called. Oh, The Adventure of the Abbey Grange. What else will it be called? The Adventure of the Second Sting. All these adventures. Wow. The Valley of Fear. That's the book in which Sherlock Holmes mentions Professor Moriarty as, like, this, well, he mentions he's a professor that has this painting that's well outside his pay grade, and Sherlock Holmes mentions he's investigating him. So technically, this also takes place before the final problem. Now, in the first story, The Adventure of the Empty House, is when Sherlock Holmes was resurrected by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle because he needed to pay the bills. Anyway, so the Adventure of the Wisteria Lodge, Part 1, The Singular Experience of Mr. John Scott Eccles, Tiger San Pedro, The Adventure of the Cardboard Box, The Adventure of the Red Circle, The Adventure of the Bruce Partington Plans. I believe that has to do with an early submarine. The Adventure of the Dying Detective, The Disappearance of Lady Frances Carfax, The Adventure of the Devil's Foot, and His Last Bow. The Casebook of Sherlock Holmes comes next on page 493. The Adventure of the Illustrious Client, The Adventure of the Blanched Soldier, The Adventure of the Mazarin Stone, The Adventure of the Three Gables, The Adventure of the Sussex Vampire, The Adventure of the Three Garadevs, The Problem of Thorbridge, The Adventure of the Creeping Man. Oh yeah, about The Adventure of the Creeping Man. Be careful of what you inject your body with, especially when it's supposed to increase virility. Yeah, so The Adventure of the Lion's Mane. That's the only story where Sherlock Holmes actually narrates the entire story, because usually it's from Watson's perspective. But The Adventure of the Lion's Mane is completely from Sherlock Holmes' perspective. This is the only one where you get that. It's really interesting. The Adventure of the Veiled Lodger, The Adventure of the Shoscombe Old Place, The Adventure of the Retired Colored Man. No, The Adventure of the Retired Color Man. I'm sorry. An introduction to Doyle's parodies. 2 parodies by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, The Field Bazaar, and How Watson Learned the Trick. And 2 essays by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The Truth About Sherlock Holmes and Some Personalia About Sherlock Holmes. So that is... And it ends at... Endnotes, page 699, comments and questions, page 703, for further reading, page 707. So, I've read it all. It's really good. I would totally recommend it. Sherlock Holmes is one of those fictional characters that keeps getting made and remade. And, I really like Jeremy Brett's performance, and when I saw the 2009 Sherlock Holmes and they turned him into this badass action hero, I thought it was interesting that they finally emphasized Holmes' physicality, which he developed as a way to compensate for his brother being smarter than him. So if his brother was smarter than him and he couldn't compete mentally, he figured he might as well compete physically. But I didn't feel like Robert Downey Jr. quite got the character. And same thing with Benedict Cumberbatch in the next following year, in 2010, with the show Sherlock. I felt that, he turned Sherlock Holmes from a detective into a human computer. That's not Sherlock Holmes at all. I especially didn't like Elementary, even though that was more of a detectives show, but they had so little respect for the source material in that show, I just couldn't watch after the first season. Just such disrespect for the source material. And then I realized, I don't blame anyone who likes these shows or movies. In fact, as long as these projects get people to read books like this or this, as long as those movies get them to read books like that, then I have no problem with them. I really don't. They may not get Sherlock Holmes as I see him, but I hope that they bring in a new audience. I first read Sherlock Holmes because I was excited by Disney's The Great Mouse Detective. When I got into my English class in middle school, I was like, oh, cool, they have Sherlock Holmes. This is what Basil of Baker Street was based off of, and, the source material of the source material. So I totally got into Sherlock Holmes. And, I couldn't read every story because they didn't collect every story in the books they had. So when I found the complete Sherlock Holmes, I just bought them and I started reading them voraciously. And the more I read them, the more I began to think like Sherlock Holmes. It's really quite interesting to begin that thought process. You pick up a thing or two when you read Sherlock Holmes. You see how he did his deductive nature and how you can apply it yourself. So, yeah. That is my review of The Complete Sherlock Holmes, Volume 2. Have you read the stories? Do you want to read the stories now? Please comment and subscribe. Would you like to see me do more book reviews? I'm trying to diversify my channel. Usually I do commentaries or short films or usually movie reviews, but I feel like doing more book reviews just to spice up my channel, Anyway, this is Holland Timmons, also known as The Connoisseur, signing off.